Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the listeners of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. Welcome to episode 106. We are back with a Gotta Watch 'Em All, the 11th iteration. We've been doing a lot of these, but this time around, we are not going to be talking at SAO. We're not going to be talking about whatever the hell Jason watched. I completely forgot. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, all the way through to Stone Ocean. This time, we are actually going to be embarking on a new journey. We're going to be talking about Bungo Stray Dogs, as well as a certain scientific railgun. Now, there is a reason why I'm watching Scientific Railgun and not a certain magical index. Jason can sort of broach on that topic a little bit later. But yeah, so just sort of preamble, I will be discussing the first season of a certain Scientific Railgun, which runs for 24 episodes, and Jason will be going for the first 2 seasons of Bungo Stray Dogs, which I think cumulatively that one comes up to around 24 episodes as well.
Yeah,
right?
so it's double curve for both of us. Yeah.
Neither of us watched the related OVAs that are connected to the seasons that we watched. On my side, I felt that they were side stories of a Scientific Railgun, so it wasn't necessary, and I don't know if Jason knew it was mandatory to watch. I didn't watch them, so it didn't really matter in the end. So how should we go about this? Should we start off with Bungo, or should we go off with a certain Scientific Railgun?
I don't know. Should we flip a coin?
I can flip a coin.
That's what Misaki did, right? Flips coins, shoots guns, railguns.
She doesn't really flip coins. She just kind of throws them in the air. Okay. Heads or tails?
Tails.
Tails it is.
All
so
right.
You get to decide who goes first.
I'll go first.
All right. So take it away with Bungo Stray Dogs.
So, I'm going to be talking about Bungo Stray Dogs. It is based on the ongoing manga series of the same name, written by Kafka Asagiri and illustrated by Sango Harukawa, also known as Harukawa 35. It's serialized in Kadokawa Shoten's seinen magazine, Young Ace, since 2012, published in English by Yen Press. There's obviously multiple seasons and movies, but I will be talking about season 1 and 2, which the first season was in spring of 2016, and the season 2 was in fall of 2016. So it was basically a split curve, which makes a lot of sense. It adapts chapters 1 to 37, and it kind of splits down the middle in terms of season 1 and season 2. The source has a massive amount of high score and popularity. 8.49, rank 160, and popularity 157. Anime first season is 7.81, and anime season 2 is 8.17. So, when we were trying to figure out what I would watch next, I think Bungo Stray Dogs was always kind of in the contention. Would you say so?
Yep. But we had that in contention for like many years ago. Like even before you started doing the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure stuff.
Yeah, because surprisingly, believe it or not, I really have not watched Bungo Stray Dogs. Not because I didn't want to or didn't like it or anything. I just haven't gotten around to it. So this is the excuse. I don't really think I need to go into plot synopsis or anything. It's just a bunch of ability users in a city called Yokohama City. And one thing that we will do is, as per usual, we'll go into non-spoilers and then spoilers. So right now is the non-spoilery section. And I have to say that my opinion of the first and second season, I will basically call it, you need to watch it both in order to conclude it as, I would say, the first season, to be honest. I think the first season really sets the stage for the characters, but it felt very, very incomplete. And then the second season, which I would guess say is the second cur, really ties it all together, and it kind of culminates into this massive battle and this massive interaction of characters, and it really is very fulfilling at the end of it. But if you just watch season 1, I have to be honest, it was a little bit hard to watch in the very beginning, because all I could think about was, this is just basically Battle Blood Blockade. Now, I actually had to do some research, or just Google basically, and found out that Battle Blood Blockade actually precedes Bungo Stray Dogs. But regardless, it's one of those ensemble casts. They talk about all these different characters who are part of this team, which consists of the detective agency and the port mafia, and all of these different characters with different abilities and how they intersect with one another and how they basically cause havoc or try to cause balance and peace within Yokohama City. I think one of the things about Bungo Stray Dogs that is pretty, I don't know if everyone knows about it, but it's based off of literary figures and historical figures, as in this character is based off of that character. This case about that character.
I mean, when you have characters named Dostoevsky and Francis Scott Fitzgerald, people wouldn't be able to figure that out.
The guild part was just way on the nose. Okay, like Tom Sawyer and shit like that. Like, there's just no way that you can avoid it at that point, or H.P. Lovecraft, that kind of thing. But
yeah, I think at this point, like, the only reason why you wouldn't know who these people are is if you didn't go to school.
Shit. Okay. Yeah.
Like, everybody who has gone to school would have done some English literature. So if you went to school in Japan, you probably wouldn't know who Atsushi Nakajima is or who Kyoka Izumi is. But if you were to school in America or Canada or the UK, you would probably know the literary works of, Tom Sawyer, Francis Scott Fitzgerald,
Huckleberry Finn, that kind of thing.
It's even if you don't know all of them, you just need to know one to figure that there's a running theme in terms of how they named the characters in this series.
But you also don't need to know who those people are, but it does add to that kind of complexity. Be like, oh, I see how it goes. Okay, this is based on this literary work, and those are the themes. So it does play out, enhances your experience, but it doesn't really necessarily detract that much if you don't know anything, because it's just, wow, people punch, kick, do abilities, go boom, that kind of thing. So it's still very, very, very satisfying. Will, when you watched it, I don't know how long ago if you watched it.
Definitely at least 5 years ago. There's a lot of stuff I don't remember.
But what was your do you remember how you felt about season 1 and 2 at the time?
They were good. I think it definitely was a bit of a slow burn in the first couple of episodes, simply because you need to sort of let them build out the environment, build out the world, just because there's so many characters. Within each guild, within each group, there's the detective agency, there's the guild, there's the mafia, there's like all these different other groups that keep on showing up. So you definitely need time to sort of marinate and introduce the characters and sort of understand like what the relationships are between all the different characters, not necessarily within their specific group, but also how they're interconnected with the people who are either considered adversaries, comrades, or whatever it may be. So I basically excused them taking their time building out the world in the first couple of episodes just because they needed it. And then once I started sort of understanding how they are all related, what their purpose in this specific series is, and then actually seeing them go about doing their jobs, I loved it. It was great. I really, really do like Bungo Stray Dogs. Unfortunately, I'm still a little bit far behind in terms of overall like keeping up with the Bungo Stray Dogs. I don't think I've watched the latest season. I think I'm basically caught up to season 4, but season 5 came out like a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I've got time before they announce season 6, or if they're going to do a season 6.
Yeah, and it is very, very much a shonen, seinen-ass kind of action show. There is really no holds barred in terms of what you expect. There's obviously, because it's a seinen show, there is a lot more blood and guts. Well, not guts, just a lot of blood in comparison to, let's say, your regular shonen kind of show. There's a lot of comedy. So it really does remind me of like a very shonen-ass show, but elevated to be a bit more mature. Obviously, that's why they call it a seinen. That's pretty much how it goes. One of the things that I think is really tragic is if I were to just watch the first season alone and then just talk about it versus after watching season 1 and 2, I think my opinion of the show would significantly change. I think a lot of people, especially because it's a split cur, so it came out in the same year, you really need to watch both curs in order to really kind of call it. I wouldn't call it season 1 and 2. I would call it season 1, part 1, and part 2. But I don't think they really did split curs back then, really. So I really like the theme of, like the what's it called? Like the grids where they write Chinese words or kanji. I kind of like that kind of motif. It's really, really, really nice. I mean, very literary focused kind of thing. And the other thing that I also really like is just the wacky cast of characters. They because sometimes it's not about my ability is super, super crazy OP. Some of the abilities are kind of wacky or have like a flaw to it. I think the doctor one is especially weird, but I kind of get it. There is another guy who has superhuman strength, but the problem that comes with that, or the flaw, is that it can only be the super strength can only happen under certain conditions, which is kind of like, oh, so nothing is perfect, that kind of thing. And I like that about the powers. Or there are people that, let's say do not have very useful powers like in battle, but then they use it like a lot in other circumstances, and so that their roles are still just as valuable in their team, part of the agency, part of the mafia. And I really like that. And
I feel like with a series like this, like if you were to compare like superpower adult cast series, right, or even just superpower series in general, the superpowers themselves are not necessarily like point blank main focus. It's more sort of understanding the character behind them and learning about, well, how do they utilize these skills? What's the purpose of actually using the skills in the first place? And also learning what they're even doing in their specific roles, whether they're part of the Port Mafia, whether they're part of the guild, whether they are part of the detective agency. That's the part which I think is more interesting, as opposed to just seeing them use their powers and go OP.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I really commend them is they really, really quickly. There are some obviously battles that are just lasts within that one episode, and they reveal the power of that enemy, and then they get rid of it, obviously, right? And it is good that the ones that they chose to be very limited in terms of screen time are like really easy and quick to understand, and it's just like really easy and quick to overcome and conquer. Whereas there will be a lot, I think also same thing with Railgun, which is in the beginning you would think, oh, this one power can only do this one thing. And then you realize that, oh, actually, if you twist the way that you use it in a certain way, it can then use it in multiple facets. So it's not just so one-dimensional. And I really like that. And I also like Danzai, obviously, one of the main protagonists, who is quick on his feet, quick on his mind, always likes to, how would you call it, try to unalive himself, or at least tries to keep having that desire.
Well, it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I want to mention is you have to understand that after season 1, which is really basically an introduction of characters, it reminds me also of like Durara, where it's just like, oh, here are just a lot of people that you just have to remember. I was just like, what is this about? Is Bungo Stray Dogs really all that? And then I started season 2, which it's not really a spoiler. It's a prequel in the the first third. And I have to say that prequel is fucking amazing. I really like the tone. It got really dark at times in terms of the tone, grim, dark. And it was just really nice to have that change of pace. And then you go straight back into the chaos, straight back into the action. So I wish it would have really took its time instead to be similar to that prequel. But maybe there's more of that in the future. Maybe there isn't. I don't know. But overall, I think that the culmination, the climax of season 2 was definitely like they upped the ante, upped the scale. Some of it I liked, some of it I didn't. But overall, it was a really good journey. And I'm excited to see where else it goes with these cast of characters, because there's a lot of them.
I mean, you're going to be in for a pretty good ride, because every season that comes out, the score for, on its My Anime List entry just keeps going higher and higher and higher. So I would be very surprised if you ended up not liking Bungo Stray Dogs at the end.
I mean, it's also just because you follow the characters, right? You grow with the characters to see how they progress. So you kind of have that attachment. Whereas in the beginning, you don't. You just have to try to figure out who you like, who you don't like, and stuff like that.
Well, it's hard to. I mean, if they're introducing the characters from season 1, it's how do you build any relationship at all with them?
Oh,
right?
I know.
So that's why you wouldn't immediately say, "Oh, that character's shown up. I'm going to like that character now." You need time. There's a reason why it's still ongoing, and there's a reason why there's probably going to be a season 6 and beyond.
Yeah,
I mean, fingers crossed they release some new stuff soon.
And I also think that they there's still a decent amount of characters that haven't really gotten their screen time, haven't really gotten their like focus story, which I think would probably be interesting. One thing that I do think is very jarring that is completely unrelated to how I feel about Bungo Stray Dogs is obviously some of the VAs are people that you recognize, or at least the voice you recognize. So, for example, I think one of the detective agency, the detective of the detective agency, Ranpo, is voiced by the same person who did Natsume Book of Friends. And it's just really weird to hear that voice and being like, oh, that's Natsume. And then it's really good to also see that there's all these veterans that are voicing, because it really does carry a lot of weight and gusto when they are, feeling emotions. And it's one of those things where it really highlights and impacts and makes everything believable despite what is on screen being very unbelievable, if you know what I mean. Like, and not necessarily like what you see on a day-to-day basis. There is one particular part about a certain doll that's really fucked up, actually. And when that happened, I was just like, oh, that's mm-mm. But then I was pretty invested at that point. And it just goes to show that this show is definitely worth the hype, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
So that wraps up your non-spoiler discussion there.
Yeah.
Moving on to my non-spoiler discussion of a certain scientific railgun. So, based on the ongoing manga series of the same name by Kazuma Kamachi, who did the story, and Matoru Fuyukawa, who did the art, and it's published in English by Seven Seas Entertainment. Raw score for its original source, which is the manga, is an 8.25. Popularity 635. So pretty damn good. The mouse score for the anime, not too bad as well. It definitely sort of grows over time. Now, as I mentioned during the preamble, this is not actually the sort of quote unquote. Well, at the time, it wasn't the main series of like a certain series. Actually, the original itself was a certain magical index, but Jason has good authority as to why I shouldn't watch that as my first foray into the certain series, and why I should go into Scientific Railgun first.
Well, to cut the long story short, the OG series, a certain magical index, a certain scientific railgun, and when Will says a certain series, he's not talking about a particular series. He's talking about a certain blah, 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 like that kind of story arc and story property, basically. The reason I told Will not to watch A Certain Magical Index is mainly because I think, personally, A Certain Magical Index is not as good as A Certain Scientific Railgun, and I think the stats kind of reflect that, such that I would say A Certain Scientific Railgun kind of overtakes A Certain Magical Index in a lot of circles. So I just thought, hey, just watch A Certain Scientific Railgun first.
Well, not to mention that one of them, which is Magical Index, ended its light novel run back in 2010, whereas the Scientific Railgun is still ongoing. So not hard to see which one is still keeping up the good work. Sort of give my 2 cents without going into spoilers. First of all, fuck you, Jason.
Why?
Because when I watched the first episode on my flight to Okinawa,
okay,
I didn't expect full sexual assault and fondling.
Oh, right, by the really weird voice girl.
Yeah,
Shirai.
This is not even a spoiler. If you are to embark on your journey of a certain scientific railgun, don't watch it in public. Absolutely do not watch it in public. Again, fuck you, Jason.
Why? To be fair, that character is very annoying in the very beginning. Yeah.
That's not the part that I'm annoyed about, dude.
Yeah.
It's about the fact that there's full frontal boobage and rape stuff going on in the first episode.
Really? I don't remember that.
Well, fuck you again.
Okay, there you go. My bad.
Back onto like actual discussion of certain scientific railgun. Similar in essence to Bungo Stray Dogs, Durara or Blood Battle Blockade Battlefront, whatever that BBBBB, whatever it is. Essentially, it's kind of like a ensemble cast of characters who have certain magical powers. despite being called Scientific Railgun. Very confusing. So they're all known as espers in this world. Essentially, they have these innate abilities that allow for them to be able to do certain things, such as either levitate something, generate massive amounts of kinetic energy and then releasing them, having telekinesis or telepathic powers. It's not fully explained why they have these powers, but with all these kinds of superpower, supernatural mystery shows, there's never an explanation, and you don't need to. You just need to watch and enjoy it. Whether you like it or not is just dependent on whether you like the characters and whether you like the development of the plot. So the fact that there's no explanation, par for the course. Even if you wanted an explanation, it would not help you in any way knowing why these characters have abilities.
I mean, I didn't question Bungo Stray Dogs either with their abilities. I'm just like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. So, in terms of the overall impression that I got from watching A Certain Scientific Railgun Season 1, it's certainly entertaining. I think that the cast of characters are definitely interesting, to say the least. So it kind of focuses on two main characters and then two support characters, along with a cast of other auxiliary characters. In general, the main two people that you would mostly see would be Misaka, who is super strong, essentially is one of the top tier espers in this world called Academy City. It's a futuristic town, which is basically made up of like the majority of like students. Most of them are all students. Most of them have some unique psychic powers. And then the rest of them are just town folk who kind of, keep the city in order, whether it's to make sure the school's running, make sure that the streets are clean, make sure that, everything is running in order. It definitely has the kind of impression that this is more a dystopia as opposed to like a futuristic utopia. Things are way too clean. Things are way too sort of like on the surface goody two shoes. So you can kind of tell that like underneath all of this, there's some weird shit brewing behind the scenes. So that was just one character, Mikasa. Her friend, Kuroko Shirai, who is the horn dog rapist. I don't find her annoying. I just find the use of her presence in a lot of these episodes to be very annoying because it doesn't necessarily lead to a lot of stuff. It comes off as just lewd or ecchi or even just bait in general. Definitely pushes the sort of like Yuri girl love agenda, even though it's not tagged as that.
No.
And then you have the other two characters who are Kazari Ueharu and Riko Saten. These are two characters that don't go to the same school as the first two main characters. Rather, they are students from a different school. Their powers are not nearly as strong, but one of them, being Ueharu, is part of the same sort of like student-run security force.
Yep, called Judgment.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of the stuff in this series doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But again, I'm not here to plead to the author. Please start like actually explaining stuff because I don't think I'll be getting any of them. Not that it even matter.
You won't.
The powers are cool. The fights are cool. But I feel a lot of the stuff that I do really want to go into in terms of whether or not I like the series would be left down into the spoiler discussion.
Right.
So overall, before I even get into the spoilers thing, if you like, I guess, cute girls doing super magical things, if you like an essence of, I guess, mystery mixed in with action, a tiny bit of suspense, this is not a bad show. Not to mention as well, it's done by JC Staff, where JC Staff have a unique sort of reputation in that if they do anything that is comedy or romance based, they're absolutely top tier. Absolutely nothing wrong with the stuff they do. So things like Dead Alive, Psyche K, Golden Time, Food Wars, those are going to be like completely like top tier shit. You cannot say that they do anything bad in that regard. When it comes to action, on the other hand, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Like for every, I guess, fairy tale that they have, which despite whether or not you like it, it's still extremely popular. They can also drop a season 2 One Punch Man, which again, whether you like it or not, most people just didn't seem to vibe with it simply because it wasn't actiony enough and it was too focused on story, despite that's actually how the manga rolls out. So it's a bit of like a hot cult reception, but there's no denying that JC Staff themselves are a massive studio and will not be going away anytime soon. And so to see them actually work on the certain series, at least the ones that have been done, which is Certain Magical Index and Railgun. I don't know if the other one has an anime, which is a Scientific Accelerator.
Yes, it does.
That one. Okay. Well, that's not about this series then. We will sort of look into JC Staff adapting a certain Scientific Railgun, and I'd say what they do is flawless. Not to say that it's perfect. I'm saying that like they make sure that they get the basics done. They get the animation correct. They get the soundtrack done pretty well. They get the fight scenes choreographed decently. Bare minimum, this is going to be a fine show to watch. Whether or not you will fully enjoy watching it, though, I will leave that into the spoiler discussion. So I think it's time to sort of decide whether we want to go into a break, because it's only been like half an hour. We could just steamroll ahead because it's hard, especially when we start doing these gotta watch them alls or these ASAPs or whatnot. It's like, is it necessary to just sort of only talk about the non-spoiler stuff and like try and elongate that when really like the good shit is in the spoiler section?
Yeah. So I'll just wrap up how I feel about Bungo Stray Dogs season 1 and 2. Actually, I didn't really even talk about the fact that it's animated by Studio Bones, because other than the fact that you should expect a certain very good level of quality from Studio Bones, this is no different. So that's why I didn't really focus too much on it. Everything looks as it should, and it's great. But I would say that if you ever want to embark on this journey of knowing what Bungo Stray Dogs is about, you need to watch the double cur as one season rather than watching season 1 and being like, oh, I don't really vibe with it, because that's how I felt. And then season 2 really adds everything together.
Well, I guess that's why you only really needed to wait 3 months for the second season to drop at the time.
Yeah, the split cur thing was definitely like envisioned at that point. I would say the first season, is a 7.5 to an 8, and then I would say that season 2 is an 8 to an 8.5, so they both kind of basically turn into an 8, essentially, is how I feel.
Probably would have been best to leave the scores for when you've done the spoiler stuff, but at least now we know how you feel before you go into the spoiler stuff.
Yeah, my bad.
Since you're doing it, I'll do it as well. I probably would have given it a 7 to a 7.5 for certain Scientific Railgun.
Okay.
Again, that's just isolating like the sole season that I watched. I know there's 2 more seasons to come out, plus a 4th that is projected to come out sometime next year, or maybe the year after. There's really no announcement as to when it's going to come out. If there is, then we can check that later. Yeah, I think we can go straight into the spoiler stuff now.
So should we do spoilers for you or me first?
Let's go in. Let's just keep it in that order. Let's go. Let's go with Bungo.
All right. So spoilers for Bungo Stray Dogs season 1 and 2. I'm just going to spoil both of them at the same time after a couple of seconds.
All right. Spoil the shit out of Bungo Stray Dogs season 1 and season 2.
Okay. So the thing that I will say that is the most, I say, problematic about season 1 and 2 is essentially a lot of the pacing is very odd, because in season 1 you get introduced to the detective agency, and obviously our main character, if you will, the tiger guy, let's see, Atsuhi, he basically, you see everything through his lens, and he has this kind of low self-worth, low self-esteem type of situation.
It's Atsushi, by the way.
Atsushi, sorry. Then what they do is then they do each episode. Okay, today we're talking about Rampa, who is the detective. This time we are talking about, the dynamic between Dazai and Kunikita, who is basically, in my opinion, like the second highest ranked, after the president, which is kind of like their buddy in terms of like good cop, bad cop with Dazai. The thing is, then after that, you get really into the action of season 2, and then just everything just kind of goes haywire, and then everything just happens really fast. Then all of a sudden, before that though, you get the prequel, which is like really slow, and it's just like takes its time, and I really like that part the most, to be honest, out of like the 2 seasons. So the different pacing of things really kind of makes it very jarring for me, especially when I binge it. Maybe when you watch it week to week, it is not that bad. But for me, who watched it kind of this part, like in chunks, it really felt all of a sudden like I'm being whiplashed here and there. I think the other thing that I think is really problematic is some of the abilities towards the end when the guild gets involved are just like, for example, there's like the Tom Sawyer Huckleberry Finn, like who's just like, oh, I just shoot things and then that's it, and then they just disappear. And then in terms of their role, whereas some people just have a lot more free time to basically show you their growth and show you how awesome their powers are. So I feel like in those situations, I would thought that, oh, we actually would focus on each character, or each character has their time to do a battle, but then not really.
I mean, if you were to just... Okay, I'm going to counter that simply because the fact that if you just include the main characters, the guild, the detective agency, as well as support mafia, there's over 40 characters.
Yeah.
So how would you have time to showcase all of their powers? They don't do that with My Hero Academia.
Well,
they don't even do that with Scientific Railgun, and there's even fewer characters in that one.
Well, what I would probably do is have less characters.
That's just not how it works, though, right?
I know. But when you have more characters and you only have a limited amount of time, there's only going to be trade-offs, right? I get that.
I mean, you say limited amount of time. It's running for 5 seasons.
Yeah, but I only watched season 1 and 2.
Yeah, I understand that at least in this point in time that you probably would have liked to see more stuff sort of extrapolated for each character. But, you know, that's what you got.
Yeah. No, I get that. I also think that the amount of people that got killed versus the amount of people that don't get killed, I thought a lot more... I thought the body count would be a lot higher. Because in the very beginning, you really thought that, oh shit, people are going to die in this series. And then actually it turns out not really any of them die at all.
Nope. But that's also the point of the story too. You want to give it time to sort of actually like learn more about these characters. And unfortunately, because you only watch the 2 seasons, that's all you got. But once you start watching more and more of it, then you can see why they stick around.
Yeah, and I think as it goes, it just builds more and more and more. And I think I just really like what Thou Shalt Not Kill, which is the doctor, which is which is when you, in order to heal someone from the brink of death, you have to cause them to be on the brink of death. I like the other one with the superhuman strength with Kenji, who's basically, I have to be hungry in order to do my superhuman strength. It's stuff like that I really do appreciate the difference between, oh, having an ability that is so overpowered versus, oh, this ability is overpowered because I can bring people from the brink of death, or I have superhuman strength, but it has this kind of condition that needs to activate. Or the fact that, like, for example, I think the Kyoko-chan, the ghost samurai kind of storyline wasn't as interesting as I thought it would be. She's cool. I like that ability.
But you're going to piss a lot of people off with that.
Yeah, I just think, but...
To be fair, you piss a lot of people off with your comments sometimes, but...
Hey,
I mean, these are your opinions.
I literally thought that she was going to die, and I was like, wow, that's very impactful. Then literally she didn't die. I was just like, okay, cool. But, hey, she's a cute-ass character.
You wanted her to die?
No, what? But I thought, like, when she finally overcame that situation, she was willing to sacrifice her life for the city that she's saving. And I'm like, that's like a really good resolution for that character. And then I realized, like, oh, right, no one dies in this series, really. So I guess faked out. And it was bad on me for being faked out. But I thought that's how I feel about that. The other one I thought about with Rampo is that, oh, he doesn't have superpowers. He's just wicked smart, as they say.
Yeah.
I like that, too. Because it's just like, oh, and he's like really insistent that he has this super ability. And everyone's like, all right, chill. I like that too. So it's like this trade-off thing is the thing that I really like about this series a lot. Anything that you want to say other than to say that I'm going to piss off a lot of people who are listening to this episode?
Oh no, you just piss off people who like Kyoka. That's about it. But other than that, I think like your summary of like how the powers come to be, how they're used, and whether or not these characters even have powers doesn't necessarily mean they get a lot of screen time. The fact that Rampo's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
he's just straight up you can call him like the Sherlock Holmes of the series, where he really is just a really good detective, but he actually has no abilities at all. He just seems to be able to become serious and analyze things really, really well, despite the fact that he is essentially a kid. He's got childlike behavior. The fact that he's even like
I don't know how to ride a train.
No.
Yeah, like I am so helpless with day-to-day stuff, but I'm just like this crazy prodigy genius.
Oh, this unsolved murder that happened like 30 years ago? No problem. I got this. He's also apparently super old too. And he's very much like regarded by a lot of the members of the agency. It's just the fact that when you really break it down, he's just a dude. He's just like one of us who just happens to be able to know how to understand situations and make do with the evidence that he has.
And I would say at the end of season 2, when the Yokohama City is saved, everyone is happy and everyone is, doing good. They kind of lay the groundworks where the Port Mafia has to work with the detective agency in order to overcome this, not the guild now, but this other person that even Dazai is like, fucking, I don't want to deal with that guy until we're ready. And the other thing I would also like to highlight is the main boss of the Port Mafia is kind of pervert, but also wicked tactician kind of level, to the point where when the government gives him that license, I was just like, that is very well played. And now that basically means that the Port Mafia can do whatever the fuck they want, which I was just like, that's so fucked up.
They are the mafia.
They are the mafia for sure.
And then in that sense, like when you said that you compared this to BBB, I could see absolutely based on like the powers and also like how the day-to-day episodes kind of play out. But really, when you boil it down, there's actually a more like actual apt comparison between this and Durarara.
Yes. I do agree. In the very beginning, I thought when I watched season 1, oh, this episode's about Rampa. Oh, this episode is about the camaraderie buddy cop between Kunikida and Dazai. So I really thought in the beginning that was because BBB is like that.
It's Rampo, by the way.
Rampo. Fuck.
Rampo
Edogawa. Sorry.
Best boy.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. And then in Durarara, it's just like, oh, we're introducing all these characters, and then let's put them in this situation.
You got like Team Blue, Team Yellow, and you got like all the other characters
like
on the side.
The square, and then there's the zombie girl, right?
Yeah, the zombie girl was dope.
Dope, she's dope.
In fact, she can pull a sword out from nowhere. And then, of course, you got, the best of the best, which is Celti.
And the doctor. Right, so it was really, it's basically like, oh, I'm going to put all these ingredients into this pot, and I'm just going to mix it and then see what happens. And I just think that originally I had this impression that it was just going to be, oh, let's just look at each ingredient for each episode and that's it. Rather than, as you said towards the end, it's basically Durarara, where let's put all these different elements and these ingredients together and see what happens. And the final battle scene was pretty cool for sure. But I think that the real like kind of awesome part of it is just seeing how all these different factors, these different powers, and these different people kind of intersect with one another, especially when you probably see that, I'm guessing, at the season 3 onwards, the line between the Port Mafia and the detective agency is probably going to be blurred even more, to the point, and this is, again, I'm not trying to spoil myself, I have no idea, my speculation is the two of them will have to gang up against probably the government at some point.
Yeah, it's one of those series, especially when it's like an ensemble cast, like when you're comparing BBB, when you're comparing Durarara, it's not very clear in terms of what a villain is and what a hero is. This is not one of those shows.
No.
This is not a show where like you absolutely have people who are in the right and people who are in the wrong. Everybody has their end goal. It's just a matter of how they get there, but it doesn't necessarily make them villains or evil. Not to mention, it doesn't necessarily make them like knights in shining armor, even if they like solve a case, simply because the methods they do to be able to get the result, or even like their intentions in the first place, are very like gray. There's
Yes.
no full black and whiteness with regards to Bungo Stray Dogs, especially when you watch further seasons. You see the lines get blurred even more. So the fact that the lines are already pretty blurry by the end of the second season, like you can kind of figure where the trajectory of the show is going to go. You're not supposed to sort of hold certain characters on a pedestal just because like you think that they are like they are like good. They are like honorable.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely some shadiness that happens behind the scenes in terms of how they get to that end result in the first place.
Yeah, I think, for example, Kyoka, she's like obviously cute girl. She's obviously like sympathetic, but she also murdered a lot of people.
Yep.
So it's like, what do you do in that situation? It's like, well, she's...
What are you going to do, man? She came from a family of assassins. She's just doing what her family lineage set her out to do, unfortunately.
But does that mean then you can excuse her behavior in the beginning, right? I mean, obviously her path to redemption and salvation is overcoming that. But in the beginning, it's like, yeah, I mean, you did murder those people. You should turn yourself in technically, unless if there's some other way, which obviously they figure out, to kind of make her part of the agency. But also Dazai is like, hey, listen, let's make this deal, 3 episodes back, to kind of predict what will happen in this episode right now, even though I'm making a deal with someone that on the surface I shouldn't be, because I'm basically there's the government, then there is the detective agency that's like the supernatural law people, law-abiding citizens, but they're not, essentially.
Just to sort of like go over like season 1 and season 2 without trying to spoil what happens later on, simply because I'm just trying to recollect what I remember of the series. It's not so much that this character is complex; it's that the character is insanely shady, and that's Dazai.
Yeah,
there is no clear sort of inclination of whether this guy is actually a detective agent, whether he is sort of doing things because he's supposed to do them, or if he has his own ulterior motive. The main thing he wants to do is he wants to die.
Yeah.
He wants to find ways to be able to achieve a peaceful, beautiful death. He's also sort of constantly attempting, unalive situations. He's very obsessed with unaliving not just himself, but also other people around with him.
It's very wacky.
It makes sense, though, simply because of the fact that his name is Osamu Dazai.
Yes.
Which, if people don't know, I think we've talked about Osamu Dazai before.
We have.
Yes. Very tragic writer.
Yeah.
Insanely tragic writer. So it is, I guess, kind of quote-unquote funny to see a more comedic spin on the real life Japanese novelist in the first place. But at the same time, if you were to read any of his literary works, the most popular being No Longer Human, you can sort of understand like why the character in Bungo Stray Dogs does the things he does. So yeah, definitely very much in the shadows, even when he's at the agency, even when he is talking and interacting with the other characters of the agency. It's very clear that this guy might have something up his sleeve, and he may not do what you think he's going to do. He's also one of my favorite characters simply because he's on screen a lot. And whenever he is on screen a lot, it kind of keeps you guessing on which direction this guy is going to go. Overall, I don't think there really are like too many weak characters. I do understand your point in terms of, the fact that this show within the 2 seasons and having so many characters doesn't necessarily allow for all the characters to show up and do their thing, but that's what happens with an ensemble cast.
I mean, I will say, for example, the most straightforward black and white character, or the most black character, is Akutagawa, which with his like kind of, I don't know what you call it, ribbon monster thing.
Yeah.
But then towards the second season, it's like, oh, dude, this guy just has...
He basically has...
a complex.
Yeah.
And
he has the Bayonetta powers, basically.
Yeah. And he also just wants affirmation. He just wants acknowledgement. And I'm just like, that is... And you're just going about it in like the most rebel, violent sort of way. But that way is not wrong because he is also doing his job. I think Mori at the end, the leader of the Port Mafia, like I think there were like 3 executives at the end. They were like opening a bottle of wine to celebrate, and then one of them was like, "Hey, so Akutagawa, should we punish him?" And Mori's like, "Hey, listen, he might be kind of crazy. He might like have a lot of issues, but he gets the job done.
He's got daddy issues, basically.
Yeah. So let me be clear. Until he fucks up, which he hasn't, and I don't think he will, he's always never going to be punished. He's all good." And I just like that because it shows the fact that like this one-dimensional character, the first half of the Double Curve, I guess season 1, all of season 1, I was just like, oh, this guy is just evil, murder shit. And then he gets injured, and it kind of carries through all the way to the end of season 2. So it's not just like, oh, I'm just going to miraculously recover. That injury actually kind of has consequences because of his like arrogance. And I just really like that. So in the end, he actually became like a very interesting character, even though he was so one-dimensional in the beginning.
Yeah, I think it's that I guess is part of the good writing that comes into Bungo Stray Dogs, in the fact that like they lead the readers or they lead the watchers into this sort of sense of belief that this character is going to be like just pure evil. I mean, he's extremely selfish. He's bossy as fuck. He really has no like regard for anyone else. But then you find out, actually, no, this guy actually has a heart. This guy is not like just completely merciless. He does have some level of compassion. Yeah. And so then like over the course of like the upcoming seasons, you can maybe then see whether or not he delves deeper into the darkness that lies within him, or maybe he actually is going to open up his heart and take in more people and start to learn to trust and maybe not be so much of a dick.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, at the end of season 2, when now we have this ensemble cast of characters from the Port Mafia and the detective agency, the only, I guess, group that hasn't really shown too much screen time and presence, even though they do loom over Yokohama City, is the government agency themselves. Yes, of course, we got that double, triple agent guy, which was the heavy focus in the prequel part of season 2, in the very beginning, which I love, and the hard-boiled detective who can see 6 seconds into the future, and how actually that can't really save him towards the end. That is like, that's one of those things where I think Bungo Stray Dogs really shines in terms of showing what they're about. The thing that I would actually say that I think was very, I guess, dramatic, but not as impactful was Q, which was the doll thing that, you know, give people curse and essentially have them hallucinate. And then have it go citywide is like the most fucked up thing ever. And I just thought like, yo, wouldn't you kind of, after that, do something about it and then kind of get the city back together? But no, right afterwards, it's like, yo, let's have this whale-like fortress kamikaze into Yokohama city center. And I just thought that, like, it just becomes more and more unbelievable in terms of the situation. But funny enough, the characters become more and more believable to me in terms of their struggles. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, look, the thing that I like a lot about Bungo Stray Dogs is not so much like the powers. I've already mentioned that. I think Jason made it clear for himself as well, despite the fact that some of them do have really cool powers. It's just the characters themselves. It's what carries the series forward. If the characters are badly written and you're just focusing on powers, which I guess you can kind of say in some aspects, some of the characters, and for example, like My Hero Academia might fall under that tree, then it's really easy to fall off it. If your main driving force of a series is just the powers, you better make sure that the powers are super cool. And unfortunately for Bungo Stray Dogs, not all of them are that cool. In the sense that, like, they're not... I don't think classing it as a superhero or superpower show fully encapsulates what Bungo Stray Dogs is. It's, in the end, still very much a supernatural mystery action comedy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. I think again, it's one of those things where it's like there's so many tags that like if you try and extrapolate one specific tag and analyze it from that perspective, then you're kind of just missing the whole point of watching Bungo Stray Dogs.
Yeah, that's like just saying, hey, Bungo Stray Dogs is about organized crime. And I'm like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, technically.
But you're also like focusing on one thing and one thing only, and you're missing out on a whole lot of other good shit. Much like if you just focus on the superpowers, much like you only focus on like the dark shit.
Or the detective stuff. It's like, you're right, but you're not really right. You
like
know what I mean?
most of the detective stuff only happens like 5 minutes per episode or like every other episode, and then it kind of just flips script, and then you start seeing like, yo, like there are a lot of dead bodies here. What's going on? Oh fuck! There's this girl with a samurai sword, and she just slew all of them. What the fuck?
Yeah. Just think about it this way: the mystery part of it, the detective part of it, it's so unbelievable because all they do is they put on the glasses and then they just solve the mystery, right?
Yeah, Rampo. Yeah.
Like that. From me, who is a very stickler for like plot holes and stuff, that should be like the biggest red flag. But for me, it was just like that's not the point. That's just to show that this guy is just wicked, like really smart. Wicked smart. Sorry, my New England thing comes in when I have to say that all the time.
You can't say smart. You have to say wicked smart.
Wicked smart, yeah. But yeah, it's like, oh, for example, the president of the detective agency is like this godly figure that everyone reveres. But he actually doesn't really show his hand or his ability or anything. He just walks around for like literally 7/8 of the 2 seasons that I watched, and then at the very end there's a sword and then his ability gets revealed, and you're just like, but he's wicked badass the whole time, because he is, and you don't technically see his power.
That is the purpose of a government, by the way, where like you don't actually use all of your executive powers. You kind of just let things run and make sure that the country or the city runs smoothly without having to influence things by yourself.
Yeah.
This is not a point of commentary on any specific real life political situations, but yeah.
But also, for example, the president of the detective agency is like, oh yeah, I'll cash in this favor. Oh yeah, I know this guy. We're cool. I'm like, that's could be like the dumbest, like, what's it, MacGuffin, to explain away, oh, so you're just gonna say, oh, I know this guy, I know that guy, and that just solves everything. But it was very understandable from that point of view that I just bought into it, that I didn't need to figure out that Dazai and Ranpo figured out where the whale would be in the city or in the sea or in the mountains with Kyoko-chan. And I'm just like, how is it possible that you can figure that out? I didn't even question it. I was just like, oh yeah, they're just being badasses. All right, let's see where this goes. So,
I have to know, what's your opinion of the Angel of Death, Akiko Yasano, the quote-unquote medic?
Why?
I just want to know. That's it.
Do I even need to reveal? What do you think is my opinion of her?
That you probably like her.
I fucking love her. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
She's one of my favorite characters. She's MVP. I've been trying to avoid talking about it. I didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, sadistic bitch.
But
she's so hot.
She is like my favorite character of all time.
She's basically the epitome of, oh, please step on me.
Yeah. It's just really funny also that as someone who is basically like really into supposed to be healing people, like at one point she's like, yo, I'm a doctor. But then at that point it's like, yo, I'm gonna murder you. Let's do the chainsaw this time. I'm just like, this is so demented.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the beauties of watching a show like Bungo Stray Dogs, like Durara, where it's like most of the characters, I would even say like the majority or close to all the characters are very likable. It's very much like everybody's going to probably have their own favorite character. Now, of course, I think we all know that the best character has to be Rampo, but I mean, some could be wrong. But
I would say Dazai also is up there.
What are your thoughts on Atsushi then? Like, because like, he is the sort of quote unquote main character, and I probably feel the same way about you. Is that he is a cool character in the sense there's something obviously broken about him. He's definitely got like this sort of self-belief issue,
the orphanage, and how like I just feel like it's like hot and cold with him, and I think
that's a lot of things with like main characters.
Yeah, is that like, you know, in like Gurren Lagann, Simone had like this really droopy phase where he feels really down in the dumps.
Oh, he's a bitch, yeah.
Yeah, and then he overcomes it, and then he becomes the badass
Fucking
that he
ass,
was.
yeah.
So this part, I thought like he doesn't necessarily have that journey, but he has really cool elements and moments. For example, there was like a girl called like Annie, right? Anna, who has like the doll in like this weird dimension room.
Oh, that's the power of Lucy Maud Montgomery, who wrote Anne of Green Gables.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Another reference there.
Right. But like there was a moment where they were in like the Moby Dick fortress, and she was she was in the jail cell, and she was outside being like, yo, like you don't understand my plight because I have been like I've been like, you know, what was it, like branded, right? There's like these marks, and then he goes, yeah, I know, because it hurts at first and then my ribs break, but then you see, and then it's just like the sharing of scars. So it's just like a very real moment there that I think it's just like, wow, that is, even though that's like 2 minutes, that's like really says a lot in so few words, and all you did was just show your scars, and it's just like really fucked up. I do think though, if there's one character that really doesn't have a lot of screen time that probably should get a lot more screen time, is Kenji. He's kind of like this happy-go-lucky Hercules type of person, but actually, I think of all the people, the whole cast, he actually has the least amount of screen time. I'm not sure, but it feels that way. At least he doesn't have his own like episode dedicated to him. He's always like tagging along, or he's always like in the background doing funny stuff. But I feel like he was the one that hasn't really got a lot of focus yet.
I think, unfortunately, in the beginning of Bungo Stray Dogs, I mean, he's just a country hillbilly.
Yeah.
Right? Just some blonde young kid who essentially works as like a data collector. Like, he essentially goes around and like gets information from people, but he also has this crazy power where when he's hungry, he's super powerful. I think this is probably one of the more one-dimensional characters in that, like, when you see him, you kind of know what you get out of him, which more often than not is like kind of just like slight comic relief. Which, to be fair, like, you kind of need that in a series where you have so many different characters. You kind of need to break tension, or you need to move from like one mood to another. Now, I don't really remember how much more screen time he gets. I'm sure he does get a little bit more, but I would say that based on like how favorited certain characters are, like Dazai, like Rampo, like to some in some essence Atsushi, and all the other characters that come along, it's going to be hard to really divvy up evenly, or as evenly as possible, the amount of screen time for all the characters.
I mean, even Lemon Bomb Man, who I thought was like a one-off character, ends up having his time to shine in season 2. So I was just like, oh, Kenji kind of got left out. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah, he'll probably have some more screen time in season 3 and beyond. I can't remember because it was so long ago that I watched those series.
But yeah, I mean, there's so much more I can say, but they're all like, you know, this detail here and that detail there. Overall, like, it's just going to grow from here in terms of my appreciation, because these characters...
I wanted to sort of dissect that because you mentioned, you know, in terms of the scores, right? 7.5. I'd say 7. You would give season 1 a 7.5.
Yes, 100%.
Right? Leaning towards an 8, but like not quite there, and then like a solid 8, maybe a little bit more for season 2.
I would really say 7.5 and 8.5. That's how I would, honestly, if I could do 0.5s.
I basically was not that far off. I gave it an 8 and a 9.
Yeah.
So like right on the money, like in terms of like how you reviewed the first 2 seasons, in the fact that the first season, the main shortcomings are the fact that, you know, jumping around, and in terms of plot beats, and also having to spend time really introducing not just the characters but the world that they're in.
Yeah,
right?
I forgot all the names of the abilities after like the 3rd episode, because they reveal everything, and I'm just like, no, I can't remember. But then obviously like episode like 20 something onwards, I'm like, I remember.
Not to mention, is it a Japanese thing, or is it like a superhero thing that I'm not aware of, in which characters name their abilities? Because I don't remember people naming their abilities in things like the DC or like the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
whereas, like,
I don't think so.
Like
Naruto, you do that, right?
Scientific Railgun, they do that.
Yeah.
Where like their ability, oh, this is so and so ability. It means it can do this. It's like, why do you have to explain it? Just do it, you know?
By the way, the dub, it makes the dub so much harder. I mean, I only watched the dub like a little bit just to see. But when you do the thing where in English you say the move, it is a little bit cringe, I'll be honest. But in Japanese, in Korean, or in Chinese, it makes total sense. I don't know why.
Yeah. Like, you can't... Like, imagine playing Street Fighter and...
Hadouken.
But they don't say it, right?
Yeah.
That will look so weird.
But then if you say fireball.
Well, okay, look, Dawson can do whatever he wants.
Yoga flame.
Yeah.
Sure. But, okay. I honestly think that the double crossing, triple crossing, double agent, triple agent, all of that, I think is very, very well done. And the blurring and the ambiguity and the gray. Because you, for better or for worse, you spend a lot of time with the so-called villains, the Port Mafia, and the good guys of the detective agency. But really, they're just the same thing.
I think, essentially, to just boil it down, every single character in Bungo Stray Dogs is a fucking either a sociopath or a psychopath.
Or is just PTSD trauma.
Yeah. Which leads into either one of those paths, right? Like, there's really no, like, sugarcoating it. Everyone's fucked up.
Yeah.
In some way.
I mean, even the Brocon Syscon,
yes,
that's so fucked up too, you know. And he has the hidden snow ability, which, by the way, when they both quote unquote died very early on in the beginning of season 1, I thought it was that type of show. I really thought, like, oh shit, people are gonna die by the bucket loads. Like, oh, don't get too attached to these characters because they will die. And it turns out complete, like, 180. And
yeah. I had a feeling, I mean, I was pretty certain that you would like the series. Not so much whether or not, like, I think you would absolutely love it. I think you definitely need to watch the other seasons before you can make that ultimate decision, right? And again, we don't know by the time it reaches season 6 and beyond whether or not you would have caught up and then we move on to another series. Much like how I did it with Sword Art Online, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like the way that you feel about the series, minus like one or two quips, I think generally falls in line with how I feel about it.
Right.
So I'm glad that like you're watching this and you feel the same way about it, because then it makes discussion. Well, I mean, yes, having different opinions definitely makes for good conversation as well, because then we can bounce off on why you think a certain character is not as good as why I think a certain character is good, and back and forth. But generally, like when we both have like a specific like similarity in terms of how we feel about the series, it definitely makes the conversation a little bit more smooth.
Right.
Now it is cool, of course, to hear you say certain things where it's like, yo, that kind of felt like a letdown, not seeing that specific character do what they wanted to do or achieve what they wanted to achieve. But again, like that's your opinion and that's how you viewed it. And at the same time, like I was watching this like 5-6 years ago. I don't know how I'd feel about it if I was to watch it all over again from today.
Right.
So obviously, like our opinions are going to change over time, and if they don't, then it's like, you know, it's pretty much like certain. Like I will say certain things, you'll say certain things. Whether they line up or not doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, Bungo Stray Dogs is a pretty good show.
It 100% is a very good show. It is not a show that I'm in love with yet. Emphasis on the yet, but it has
it has the hallmarks for it, right?
And it has just a lot of good stuff happening. That it's like no shit Sherlock, that this is one of the most popular ongoing long running series, both in anime and in manga form, right? I mean, it's literally still happening, serialized right now as we speak in terms of anime and manga. So there's no way that it is you can avoid it really, unless if you avoid it on purpose. So yeah,
cool. Now, we will give a couple seconds before we move on to the next discussion topic, which is the spoiler section of a certain scientific railgun. So, railgun. Where do we start? Now, I don't know whether or not what I say is going to make it seem like I like or dislike the show. What I will do is I'll just sort of go over the things that I think work really well with the series, at least from season 1, and then things I think are either lacking or I just didn't necessarily vibe with from season 1. So to start, I think the characters are pretty good. I think that the character, well, okay, there's some characters that are really, really good. So I don't think it's really that hard to say that my favorite character in this whole season 1, it's not Misaka, it's not Shirai, it's not Saten, it's not Yuhara, it's not even like any of the main characters, especially one of the supporting characters. It's the girl that works at that agency. What's her name? I need to find it. Give me a second. There's so many characters.
Which? Oh, you mean a Judgment?
A Judgment, the glasses girl.
Oh, the spider. Well, I mean spoilers, right?
Yes, it happens in this.
Yeah. So the spider gang, well, ex-spider gang girl,
yes,
right? Yeah. I do forgot her name. My bad.
I do forgot too.
But
no, she's one of my favorite characters. In terms of like how the characters are written and how they interact with each other, I think it makes sense in the fact that like they're all like high school girls. They're all like in an academy city, which basically means that like everybody in that city is pretty much the same age as them. So all the sort of shenanigans they get up to, it kind of just makes sense why certain things happen. Like they're in the middle of like an academy. Here's the thing. You never see them go to school, by the way. You never see them go to class. The only times when they go to class is if they don't have Esper powers.
Okay.
Like their Esper powers are shit. Okay, they gotta go to supplementary classes. Oh, I don't want to do this shit because it's so boring. You never learn.
Konori.
Oh, Konori. Yeah, Konori. Yes, absolutely love her. For 2 specific reasons.
Okay.
Yeah, you know which 2.
Okay. The thing that I will say about that is that kind of resolves itself after a while.
Okay.
It's just the school thing does happen. Okay,
yeah.
The school
it's just that it's called Academy City. Yet all you do is see girls wear their school uniforms and go to the mall or go to the park or go to the judgment agency and do their job. Where it's like, shit, don't they need to go to school? Like, how do they maintain their rankings and all? Like, okay, I understand like when the first episode starts, Misaka is doing her training, and that's why like the swimming pool blows up. Because she's testing her powers and all that, and you're like, wow, that's super powerful. It's like, yeah, she's doing it in a pool. What? That's not even her full power? Yeah, that's why she's the number 3 Esper in all of Academy City. Oh, I wonder who the first 2 are going to be. Don't know yet, because it's only a season 1. But it's fun. I think, like, Mikasa... not Mikasa. not AOT. Misaka is a pretty standard, if not a little bit, like, white bread kind of character, where it's like, she has the drive to showcase her power and protect Academy City. She also is... The thing I like about her as well is that like she tries hard not to be like the standard kind of young schoolgirl where it's like, I still like kid things. I like frog plushies. I still wear safety shorts because I don't want people flipping my skirt and seeing my underwear. And everyone just like sort of like rags on her a bit where it's like, wow, you like this kind of pattern for like a sewing suit or like for a towel? No, of course not. No, it just happened to fall on my hands. No, I'm going to look for something else. And then when everyone leaves, she just runs back. It's like, I'm sorry. Don't worry. I'm going to get you one day. I'm going to make sure that you fall on my hands. I'm going to protect you and all that. It's like, so I like that kind of sort of
like juxtaposition
where it's very much like you have to remember that all these characters are so young that these are their formative years, and some of them are still just trying to figure out who they are or what they want to be, right? And despite the fact that she's been endowed with these insane powers, which is basically her power is the ability to utilize and manipulate electricity. But that doesn't necessarily mean she just shoots like thunderbolts out of her hands. No, it means that she's able to interact with certain elements around her, like how she interacts with metals or certain minerals in the ground, or how she can sort of change the currents of energy to be able to either enforce as like potential energy and then release as kinetic energy and whatnot. So I guess that's where like the science part comes in, when really there actually is no fucking science for the most part.
So
I guess that's why it's like it's technically still within the sort of overall like magical index umbrella, right?
Yeah. So, of course, Will, you don't know this, but basically, the difference between a certain scientific railgun and a certain magical index is the magic and science angle. And there is a group of powers that are magically oriented and then a group of powers that are scientifically oriented. That's all I can say, and that's all you really need to know. And all of these powers are science oriented because it deals with the elements. It deals with like manipulating
the manipulation of physical traits.
Yeah,
physical things.
So yeah, she can teleport. Isn't that like psychic stuff? But it manipulates the matter of locations, whereas
that's Shirai, the pink haired kind of yandere-esque rapist girl. That's her power.
And she's definitely in love with Misaka. There's just no doubt about it.
Yeah. So then on to Shirai, which I think like when I first talked about it, right? Like you thought I might be annoyed. I actually was not annoyed by her at all. I kind of like her. I thought her voice is a little bit weird.
Yeah.
She sounds like a chain smoker.
Yeah.
She sounds like an old granny. It's like it's just that sort of like vocal fry raspiness to her voice.
It's very distinct.
Yeah. And so therefore it's like more often than not, like she actually gets a lot more screen time than Misaka, even though like her along with the other two characters are deemed main characters on my anime list. But yeah, I like Shirai. Moving on to then Saten. She's the Aqua of the show.
And she's, I mean, the whole point of...
Which, to be fair, like, is kind of harsh on her.
It is harsh,
Simply because of the fact that, unlike Aqua, she actually has no abilities. So it's not that she's useless with her abilities. She just can't... She's not an Esper.
Well, she's level 0.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So you understand. Even if you are a 0, you're still an Esper. You just have unrealized potential, right? You just haven't been able to unearth and find that sort of personal reality, quote unquote, to be able to utilize those powers.
Or it's so inconsequential that it really can't amount to much. I mean, if I remember, Yuharu is a level 2.
Yuharu, at least, well, I mean, I don't know if later on she was a level 2. She's a level 1.
Oh, sorry. Then she's level 1 because she can, she did it with the leaves, right?
That's the thing. I actually never saw her use her abilities, and I actually thought, okay, this may piss people off because I probably could see a lot of people liking this character. Actually, I don't know. Like at least like on my anime list, she's not really favorited on her entry. She only has 358 member favorites on Mal, so boo-hoo. But this actually furthers my point. I don't like Uharu. Okay. I actually find her very annoying.
I understand that.
Runs around with a wreath of flowers on her head. Never explains why she has it. She's a level 1. Never see what powers she actually has, other than the fact that she's really good at working with databases at the Judgment Office. So she definitely knows how to do data science. Pretty cool there. I mean, like, I have to manipulate a lot of data for my job as well. So whenever I saw her like actually crunching data and being able to sort of look through the database and figure out, oh, there is this character on this side over there. They were using this power. It's happening at this time. Oh, we have her information. Okay, but she has like latent powers. So it's like, that part was cool. What I don't necessarily like about her is the fact that like I don't necessarily see a whole lot of use of her outside of doing like hacking and information gathering. She's a crybaby a lot of the times. Near the end of the season, actually, when she just cries because like a failed mission happens and she just can't get her words across. I was just like, oh, bitch, just man the fuck up and just say what you need to say. And the best part of that was right after I thought that, Shirai comes up and just slaps the fuck out of her.
Yeah,
and just says, are you going to keep crying or are you actually going to do your fucking job? Aren't you a fucking judgment officer? And she's just like, snot coming out her nose, tears at her eyes, like, move aside, I'm going to get a computer and start doing my job. And it's like, yes. For the one time she redeemed herself. So it's not that I absolutely hate her. It's more just like, I just don't vibe with her. I find her like sort of like chibi shyness to be a little bit sort of overbearing.
You know what she is? She is in Ocarina of Time, the little fairy.
Yes.
That goes, hey, listen, hey, listen, hey, listen. That's
Navi.
Yes, no, she really is that character. She is like the buddy sidekick character, you know? And I don't think that is, at least that's how I feel too. And she is meant to be like the caring mom, the nice.
She's the emotional support.
Yeah.
And I understand like her importance in this because of the fact that she does have like a really strong relationship, or at least like a really strong level of respect for Misaka, because of the fact that like she was like saved by her in one of the sort of incidents that happens in Academy City, the robbery at the bank or the post office. I think it was the post office. So that's why for her, like, she does the best she can to at least, you know, do her part in this judgment office, which, by the way, still, like, it still bewilders me that, like, this is a futuristic, supposedly utopia, yet they employ child labor.
No. They don't get paid.
Yeah. Oh, so they're volunteers.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Then that's how they circumvent
exactly.
it, right? Yeah.
So the I think the majority of season 1 focuses on what I would call the level upper arc.
Basically, the sort of main crux. The way that this series plays out, at least in season 1, is very much how a lot of these kinds of series plays out. You get 9 to 10 episodes of stuff where it's sort of episodic. There is a situation happening. There's always a plot A and a plot B.
Yeah.
Right? 2 characters are dealing with one situation, 2 characters are dealing with another situation. In each episode, it changes over and over. Oh, there is some sort of weird urban legend that's happening over here. Oh, I need to go do a swim shoot. I want to do this and do that. And then near the middle, then you get introduced to the main plot, which is there has been these spates of incidences where people who have no or very low Esper ratings are actually causing more havoc and damage, and people are wondering what the hell's going on, and allowing for them to be able to enhance their abilities, and they find out a thing called level up, which is a sort of, okay, just to sort of straight up say it, it's an MP3. It's a sound file that allows for the user to tap into their latent Esper powers and actually sort of it's basically steroids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But with like
human growth hormones type of shit. Yeah.
Some HGH shit, right? MGH or SGH, right? Science growth hormones.
Sure.
Okay, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then when they find out that this has become more widespread, there's more people, and it's not just the the quote unquote good people that are using it. There's also a lot of delinquents in this town who go around and muck about and cause trouble. So then when they find out that it's actually a sound file that's been developed by a scientist, they need to figure out, okay, first of all, how do we stop the source? How do we stop the distribution of this? And then afterwards, how do we hold the creator of this level up accountable? They find out that the person who's responsible for at least the initial incident is Harumi Kiyama, who is, I think in terms of like the urban legend, she's the undresser. She goes around and like you actually meet her in like the 6th or 7th episode when they talk about those urban legend things, and essentially what she does is she's just very like not self-aware. Whenever things are like a little bit uncomfortable, she takes her clothes off. Like if it's too hot, she'll take her top off.
Yeah, like
or she spilled water on her dress, so she takes her dress off
as a comedic kind of shtick. Yeah.
And then you find out later, actually, there's a little bit more behind this, because in that same episode, you see her at her desk, and she's scrolling through her database and says, Misaka, we will meet again one day, or something like that. And then, go into the 12th episode, like literally like the halfway point, you then find out, no, this person actually not only developed a level up, but what she does is she also, it's one of those things where it's like, once you agree to doing this, you've given up all of your rights and you allow for us to use your data in any way we like, whether you like it or not, because you signed your confirmation, you signed away your rights to do that. And so what she does then is she creates this huge Neuralink network, which absorbs all the powers of the people that she had been using the level upper on, and then she's now able to utilize her skills. She can then create fireballs. She can create these massive like physical shields, and she can manipulate minerals and shit. So she can create like these walls of granite to be able to block all the electricity shots that Misaka, the railgun can do. Yeah.
Also, she needs to sleep.
Yeah. And then you find out the reason why she's been doing this because she is trying to collect the first sample, which was a sample collected from an experiment done by a mad scientist named Gensai. because what he wanted to do was essentially similar to what she's doing, absorb all the latent powers of young child espers and then essentially juice them.
Yeah.
Take out all their powers to create one singular ultimate being, a level 6. A level 6? They say that so many times in the series. It's just, it's just like anytime it's like, bro, like, you know what you're looking for. Why are you so astounded that that is the thing that you're trying to like destroy? Like, is it possible to level 6? Yes, bitch. Like, that's why you were on this mission in the first place. So then, like, you then find the children who were part of this experiment.
Underground lab type shit.
And then, like this new government arm comes in and says, we'll take over now. And it was very, very clear that like they're not just any government arm. They're probably trying to do something about this because they have all the information. Like, why would the government all of a sudden be looking into these children? Nobody questions that. And they're just like, okay, well, here's all of our research. Great. Destroys it all. What are you doing? Haha. I'm actually the granddaughter of Gensei. No fucking way. I couldn't have... you couldn't have figured it out because you're too busy going to the mall. That's what it was, right? And then afterwards, you then find out that they're going to try and save the children, but they can't save them yet because even if they found the children, they wouldn't be able to wake them up unless they have the first sample. Oh, guess what? This evil bitch at the end actually has the first sample. Why don't we take it from her? And I'm not going to describe the fight because the fight itself was pretty cool. But also, like, not a whole lot happens. They get the first sample, they wake the children up, and they're saved. Ooh, that's really, really... I guess this then leads into like the areas which like I was not too like stoked on with Scientific Railgun. I thought that the writing itself could have been better in the sense that like it felt very pointedly obvious the direction of the story in which you knew who the quote unquote main villain was, you knew what they were going to do, and it was kind of just like in your face. But then when you have to see the other characters slowly catch up to your realization, look, I know I'm watching it from the side. I can see everything real time. I know these, characters are not meant to be like super clairvoyant and know everything happening all at once, right? Despite the fact that Academy City is littered with security cameras. By the way, another aside, why the fuck are there windmills in there?
Because they need to harvest renewable energy.
But they never fucking spin. They spin so slow that you can't actually generate a whole lot of energy. So I'm just like, wondering, like, this is just like visual pollution, right? Like you're just like literally there's an intersection, and right next to it there's a fucking windmill. It's like, this is dangerous. Do you not have birds in this town?
No, because you see, they have to show that they're very scientific, so they are harnessing the power of the wind.
So when I'm looking at it,
by the way, this is my theory. By the way, this is like I also was like, why the fuck are they doing this? But then I was like, maybe it's just aesthetics to show that we're hella scientific.
we're down with renewables, man. Burn cold? Nah, dude. That's for magical index.
Yeah.
We're scientific railgun, man.
And then at the same time, I'm like, dude, just grab someone who has electrical abilities, just charge up a bunch of batteries, and you're good.
Okay, so at that point, that then becomes like the real dystopian shit in which you're just harvesting the powers of these kids. Imagine like Misaka, instead of actually being the level 5 railgun that she is, all she is just basically locked up in a fucking government facility, and you're just juicing her for powers. That's fucked up. But that will also make it really awesome to watch, because then that dark twist would just be like, whoa, this city is way more fucked up. Because the main twist in which it's like, oh, there's a real like crazy shit going on here, where it's like it's kind of like Fullmetal Alchemist, in which like they're trying to collect all the blood of all these innocents to create the Philosopher's Stone. That's essentially what they're doing. They're just juicing all these kids and rinsing them out and using their powers to create this first sample so that they can finally create the ultimate being, a being that would never exist in current conditions, create an artificially juiced level 6 Esper. And you never see it happen because...
guys, so for those who have watched all the other seasons of Railgun and just heard what Will said, you know what's up. If you can't tell... by sound of my voice, I'm grinning from ear to ear because I kind of know the answer to your question, and all the things that you say. All I can say is I'll talk to you all. Remember this
But
conversation?
but at this point, right? At this point,
Yes.
it makes absolute fucking sense that I'm so confused by a lot of this
absolutely, 100%. But the next gotta watch them all. Please remember this conversation, and then we'll revisit this topic.
Yeah, I only know that like this is only going to get better just because the score itself also improves over time, over seasons. I mean, but at least this is how I initially feel from watching season 1.
So, what do you think about, for example, Satin's struggle of basically being quirkless,
that part
being
I think
powerless?
I think that part was good, especially her instance of actually using the level up, because that was probably the more hard-hitting ones where it's like I'm surrounded by not just friends but also classmates in which they have powers and they're doing everything they can to not only protect the town but also protect people like me. And my dream was to be an Esper. And yes, I do have Esper abilities, I just can't use them because I don't have the juice to do it, you know?
Right.
So for her, like she's very downtrodden in that episode, and it was actually kind of hard watching her like realize that because of the fact that she used the level up, that it was going to seriously fuck her up. So then the first thing she does, she calls Uiharu, because who else would, who wouldn't call Uiharu in this situation?
Yeah.
And just tell her, look, I used the level up. I'm in serious trouble. I'm so sorry. And then Uiharu, in her one redeeming moment, is just like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. Don't worry. We will save you. It's like, then why are you crying? Because I cry all the time. It's like, okay, cool. All right. And then they save her. So it was like, that was like one of the touching moments in which like you'd see, it's like, unlike a lot of like the superhero shows where like you have people who have powers and then you just have normie citizens, you have someone who clearly is on the spectrum of like using these scientific Esper powers. She just can't use them. So what is she then? Is she a muggle, or is she actually like just a failed Esper?
And that kind of sucks because you are kind of giving that person false hope that, oh, you are not a non-level, you are a level 0, right? So you're not a muggle because a muggle is completely
no ability whatsoever. Like you can't even train to do it. Whereas for her, it's like what really sucked was they had that remedial class training
right after all of that, right?
And then she does the test, and it's like it shows no improvement at all. Like she still sucks, and like for her, it's like I guess that's what it is. I'm like, wow, dude, like way to really shit on this character, man. Like I don't like Satin all that much, but after watching that, I was just like, bro, they really done her dirty. Like they put her really through the gauntlet. They gave her a taste of the medicine, and then like she essentially was like able to do the things she wanted to do, only to then go into a coma and then wake up and then get punished for it. And then like afterwards, like the punishment is, oh, we're gonna remind you that you are still a useless Esper and you can't do your shit. And it's just like, oh, okay, I guess this is the way things are. Fucking brutal, dude.
Yeah, I mean that's life though. In a
the
way.
other thing that I guess. This is more like an obvious nitpick. I really didn't like the 180 that they did on Kiyama, the scientist, the one who strips.
Oh yeah.
So it happens all the time, not just like in like this series or any series, but also like in video games and whatnot, where like you meet your first big bad. And you fight her, and she's like fucking powerful. Like she has like more than enough like level 5 abilities to just level this town. She even says, "I will destroy this town before I give up the kids."
Yes, she
right?
she says that near the highway where it falls, right? Yeah.
But then she gets reintroduced like midway through the second half, basically 3/4 of the show. Because she is still connected to those kids. There's an ongoing case of trying to save these children, and she comes back. And because of the fact that like she doesn't have those powers, they just completely strip her of any power whatsoever, and she's just fucking useless. You know, when you have like your first villain and it turns out they're actually pretty good, so then they join your team and then you realize they actually kind of suck.
Yes, I remember a ProZD skit about that. Yes,
right, that's her. That is absolutely 100% her, and it's unfortunate because it makes sense why she's not able to use her powers anymore because they removed them from her.
But she has a Lambo.
She has a Lambo. She's still rich. I guess that's a superpower.
Yeah,
right. She can drive fast. And that becomes very useful in the second half of the season.
Yes, literally on a highway, yes.
Yes. By the way, I should have mentioned this, but I think it's apt to actually say it. The highway fight was super dope.
Was or wasn't?
Was super dope. So it happens when the
helicopters, right?
The main big bad of the second half of the season shows up,
Mm-hmm.
and they're on a highway chase,
Mm-hmm.
right? Kiyama, along with Shirai, Saten, Uharu, and Misaka, are trying to bolt it to this lab where supposedly the children are being held.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, they get cut off. Helicopters are coming in. And then
the
the MVP of that one episode, Kongo Mitsuko,
touches
a truck and just shoots it straight in the air. So for the most part, her presence was just this person, like this sort of like know-it-all, where it's like, oh ho ho, I'm so strong, so powerful. But she really does have like a natural soft spot in terms of like wanting to make friends. For some reason, she just needs to put on the front. She needs to be as arrogant and as pompous as possible.
Yep.
But really, she's actually a good person. And she comes in and saves the day because she just throws a truck in the middle of the air and destroys these helicopters. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. We actually never knew what your powers were. My power is doesn't matter. just fight now. She's a level 4, by the way.
Yep.
That was dope. The other part that was kind of dope, but like for more culture reasons, was, as with any popular series that has a lot of female characters, and that also has characters where they just have like an abundance of like panty shots. You gotta have a beach episode.
Oh yeah, guaranteed.
And that beach episode was problematic, but also really cool.
Was that the photo shoot one?
Yes, that was the photo shoot. But when
Kengo.
when you first get introduced to Kongo, Kanori is there for some reason. The other two girls from the swim club, who initially invited Misaka because Misaka is like the
Super
shining,
powerful,
the shining jewel of Academy City, right?
Well,
The academy itself, the school that they go to.
Yeah, sure.
What do you mean? Do I find out more in season 2 and season 3? Or no, season S and season T.
Do you know why they call it that, by the way?
Are they trying to spell out scientific railgun?
No. Because the first season is just...
because second season S and then third season T.
So then the new season that just got announced F. Yeah.
Boo.
So then I go, what about fifth? Did we F-I? I don't know. And then S-I instead of... Because second...
Yeah, they really hangstrung themselves, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. The reason why it's problematic is because there are certain characters I absolutely do not want to see in a swimsuit. That being Uiharu, because this prepubescent 12-year-old... I'm sure she's older than that, but like...
No. She's 12 to 13, I think.
Okay, then, yeah, fuck that, right? I don't want to see that. But then when Kanori shows up, and Kanori is like, unfortunately, I couldn't find a swimsuit in my size, so I needed to wear something a little bit smaller. And everyone's just like, whoa.
Yeah. Oh, but look,
photo shoot then. All right,
yeah,
cool.
But look at this, tattoo that I have. It reminds me of that Hunter x Hunter tattoo.
The other one as well, you mentioned Spider earlier, right?
Yep.
So there's this Spider gang, which is another one of those episodic things where you learn a bit more about Kunari's history as well. The Spider guy who shows up, and then like he sees Shirai and Misaka. It's like, oh, thank you for helping out today. I hope your breasts grow as much as your heart does. And they're all like,
and then they both look at their breasts, being like, "Fuck."
Why do I feel like I should be ashamed and I should be like insulted, but that was actually really affirming. I know, right? This is really super weird. And then afterwards, then he sees Kanori. It's like, I see that jacket still fits you perfectly and snug. I'll always wear this for you. And you're like, and then those two look back at their breasts again. I'm like, wow, all makes sense now. Yep. Wow, I feel really bad, but I'm not insulted. Just like, and then the other character, which I feel is a little bit like I'm confused as to why he's there, but I'm sure he'll show up later on. I don't remember his name. The guy who essentially is Eraserhead.
Toma.
Okay,
so do you want to? Okay, so
I know that he's from
Yes.
Magical Index.
He's the main character of a certain magical index, along with the little bishop girl.
Okay.
Who likes McDonald's.
Oh, the bishop girl, she's one of the tutors, I think, in the remedial training class.
No.
episode? Or is
That's the pink hair girl who is completely
not related?
not related.
Okay.
She's. I won't fault you because I also made that mistake, but they're separate.
Okay. So Komoe, the little pink hair girl, not the little bishop girl we're talking about.
And she's actually the teacher. Yeah, we're talking about the Index Librium Frobratum, whatever.
Okay.
Which is from Index.
Right. So does Toma show up again?
Yes.
Okay.
So the thing that you have to understand is it is a spin-off of Railgun is a spin-off of Magical Index, and there are certain events in both where Misaka shows up in Magical Index as one of like
and then on the inverse, then you have Toma showing up in Scientific Railgun.
Yeah. So in Magical Index, the scene that you first saw with him and Misaka, I think, is in a park.
Yeah.
That is also shown, but from his point of view in Magical Index. And then there are like intersecting lines. But
meta as fuck.
But
okay.
all I have to say is I fucking hate Toma. Okay?
What?
Because all he is eraser ability.
What? I like him.
Really?
Yeah, I like him.
Well, you'll like him a lot more as the season as
I like him just because of the fact that he like diffuses like the hot-headedness that Misaka has, where like she feels like she's hot shit and everything, and she just like is super into like beating him up when he's just like, bro, we've done this like 50 times already. You never win. It's like, well, I'll win this time, and that's where it's like, dude, like just let it go, man. And she's like, no, I can't let you go. Wait, hold on.
Wait, am I into you?
What?
What?
No. And she just starts like shooting more laser beams at him. It's just like, I thought his character was cool for what he needed to be, in that he's just, now that I know, a support character in this world when he's the main character in the other world, and
well,
he's just there to piss Misaka off.
He carries a lot of baggage that you don't carry.
Oh no, I'm sure like you can sort of see that there's something up with him. Otherwise, he wouldn't just randomly show up in Scientific Railgun.
Yeah, but one thing I will say is he shows up more.
I'm glad.
And actually, to be fair to him, or to be fair to the character, it's better, a lot better. And I think the jump from season 1 and 2 in terms of not the visual and the quality, it jumps up quite a bit.
So then I gotta ask. And you can say yes or no. The fact that there are, like, in terms of, like, this being this whole continuum of, like, a certain something series where Magical Index characters show up in Scientific Railgun and vice versa, does that mean that Scientific Accelerator are going to have characters show up as well? Pretty much.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's also, like, par for the course too, right? If you're going to have characters show up between the two properties of Scientific Railgun and Magical Index, it would be weird if Scientific Accelerator characters didn't show up.
I don't think Accelerator and Magical Index has intersecting lines. I'm not sure. Obviously, they're all in the same universe, right? But was it Misaka should be the third highest, level 5, right?
Yeah.
So
there's only 7.
So, do you know who's the second and who's the first?
Not yet, no.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, so I guess you'll find out later on.
You'll find out later on.
Yeah. So, overall, I like the series. I don't love it at the moment, only because it's my first taste of it, right? Like, I don't know anything about Magical Index. I'm definitely not going to be getting into Scientific Accelerator, or unless, that is the next on the docket for me after finishing Scientific Railgun, or at least up to current. But overall, like I'd say that this series is a fun watch. It's definitely wacky. You definitely get a lot of Yuri baits, and you get a lot of edgy shit, especially whenever like Saten keeps flipping Uharu's pants to see what type of underwear he's wearing.
Yeah,
it's polka dots today.
By the way, like why? But
No.
Sure, okay, sure.
It just so happens they do it to like the youngest looking character too. It's just like, this is really weird. This is not cool, but also like, I guess girls be
Sure,
girls.
yeah.
I guess girls flip each other's underwear all the time. I don't know.
how many times have we? Okay, because we're not girls, we'll never know. How many times have we seen anime where, like, when they're in the hot spring of the onsen, they look at each other's boobs and being like, "Oh, you."
I mean, they do that in the fucking like the photo shoot episode where they're just like, you see Konori and they look down at themselves. It's like, wow, we're not women. She is a woman. It's just like, damn right she is. So overall, I would recommend people watch it. I did give it a 7, but that's only because I can't give it a 7.5.
I think that I gave it an 8, but I begrudgingly gave it an 8, if that makes any sense, because I went the 7.5 to 8 rather than 7.75.
Yeah, the reason why I feel is because the fact that like a lot of the sort of episodic moments felt a little bit like
okay, so okay, I'm gonna have to ask you a couple questions. So for the anime takes certain liberties that the manga, the original source, does not do. So all of the slice of life stuff that you know of doesn't exist in the manga.
I imagine, yeah.
All of I think Kengo's upbringing or backstory is not the same.
Oh, Congo.
Yeah.
Rich girl. Not rich girl, but just, fangirl.
Fangirl. Also, she has a larger role in the future seasons, and she is wicked badass.
No, I mean, I can already see she's going to be badass. It just, when you first see her, you're just like, she's just this pompous bitch who just wants to flaunt her shit when she has nothing to show for it.
With her 2 lackeys, right?
Yeah, and it's just like those lackeys, those are the sheep. Those people, like, I don't know what they're doing. They're just following her around simply because she talks a whole lot and, like, they believe all the bullshit that she spews out. Yeah, I think it's just the episodic moments aren't as good when watching them in isolation.
Yeah.
The plot itself, especially like the main plot of saving those children and figuring out the level up stuff was like, it was okay. It was just, I feel like because of how obvious things were like in the beginning and how they were kind of displayed throughout the season, that it kind of dragged on how they were going to solve things. I felt like if they really wanted to, this could have been done in one season.
Yes. 100%.
If it was one season, I might have felt a little bit more positive about it, but I understand as well, like, when you do that, you also then remove the possibility of seeing, like, the relationship between Shirai and Misaka, or especially the relationship that Ueharu has with Misaka, or the relationship that Satin has with everybody else. You definitely won't get the beach photo shoot episode as well, which I think is like absolutely necessary to watch. I think it actually like lends itself to the plot. I think in terms of like the whole plot line, the beach photo shoot is the most important.
Yes, for sure.
It
also introduces things, and
no, I'm saying because it's for the culture.
Yeah, I know. One thing I will say though is that I would call it to the point of filler episodes. That's how I would feel. And you have to understand that this is from 2009, man. So this is like, maybe, okay, I'm not sure, but let's say if I were to fast forward to adapting the first season for the first time in like 2020, I think all those filler episodes will be cut, and you would get like a very, slimmed down, to the point adaptation.
Yeah, I think what they did was they actually got greenlit for 2 seasons when they really only had 1 season of material.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, all the other seasons are also double curse, so,
Yeah, but are they as episodic as this, or I guess I'll find out.
Yeah, you'll find out, but I'll just say the jump from season 1 and 2, if you have a lot of criticism of season 1, season 2 should answer or alleviate all of those issues.
Cool. Got it. Okay.
Including some of the stuff that you kind of hit the nail on the head, but you actually didn't realize you did.
Yeah. So, that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on A Certain Scientific Railgun. Enjoying it. Could be better, but that's, just the first season. So I'm pretty sure that as the next, as S and T or second season, third season show up, I'll probably have, not to say I have a negative perspective on it. It's more just that, like, I'm more trending towards, like, more overtly positive about it.
So if I were to kind of ask you, what do you think obviously you won't know like the storyline, obviously, but what would be like the direction that you would want season 2, 3, or whatever to be based off of what you know that you like and don't like of season 1?
Well, I mean, the clear and obvious one is, who are the other top 7 espers in Academy City? What is the purpose of bringing in Toma all the time, like from the Magical Index world? And then, of course, like, you get the first taste of the underground experiments of children to be able to create this super weapon or this super scientific thing, right? So then you want to then understand, especially when like Harumi Kiyama, the scientist stripper, talks about like, oh, you think you know everything about the government? No, the government is rotten to its core. It's like, okay, yeah. Like that was also painfully obvious as well, that there's definitely some weird shit happening behind the scenes, especially when you have it's like when you really think about it as well, right? In this normal society, why is there an academy city that specifically caters to children, or at least like young adults who have Esper powers, and you congregate them all in one specific area, right? And this is definitely not like in the pursuit of science. There's got to be something else that's happening behind the scenes, and that's why I figure we'll probably unravel in the next couple seasons.
Yep. I'm not going to say anything, but other than say, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
I feel like I'm on the right track, and even if I'm not, I'm probably going to enjoy whatever I see.
Yeah, you probably will. Just like how I will with Bungo.
Yeah, I mean, like, what do you think's going to happen in Bungo? Spoiler alert, whatever you saw in season 1 and 2, it's just going to be more of that, but wackier.
Oh, really? I thought the government will have more of a role, and then the port... I think I said it, the port mafia and the detective agency, the line gets blurred, and they basically become one entity against the government.
I plead the fifth.
Okay. That is my guess, basically. That is what I'm saying, because... You know, that they're the only...
No, these are all good speculations. I mean, in the end, it's like you kind of see like these like seeds being plotted, right? And you kind of figure like if that's the direction they're taking within like the first 20 or so episodes, it would be weird if they didn't dive deeper into that.
Well,
right?
You're going to tell me that, okay, season 2 was the U.S. with the guild, so there is now an entity from Europe that shows up? I don't fucking know.
Space China.
Space China?
Yeah.
That's actually a pretty dope-ass team name.
Space China.
We're from Team Space China.
Yeah, they've taken over Venus, and they've called it China 2.
Well, you're a Uranus, all right? So, anyways.
Yeah, that's America.
Oh, that hurts a little bit, but I also don't fault you for that. Anyways.
And then you have Europe taking over Pluto because they're tiny and insignificant.
Damn. All right. We thank you guys.
I don't mean that at all. I'm just basically commentating on the state of politics in this world right now.
And we're also commenting on the fact that we're at the end of this episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. If you want to, we really do appreciate you leaving a ratings or review. If not, it's all good. You can contact us through our email, gapalette@gmail.com, GAPALETTE, all lowercase, all one word, using the handle @PaletteGood, capital P and capital G, all one word, and our website, www.goodanimepalette.com, all lowercase, all one word. Music credits for this episode. Our intro music is Life is a Party by John Runefelt. Our break music is Chemistry Love by Swift7. And our outro music is Voyage by Pow. You can support the music artists that we feature by listening to them on Spotify, Apple Music, or your music listening platform of choice. And Epidemic Sound provides all of our royalty-free music. If you're interested, you can sign up using the referral link in our show description. Terms and conditions apply.
I think we got some pretty good series this time around. I mean, again, like I think like SAO and JoJo was really, really good. What did we watch for the first time around?
Monogatari.
Oh yeah, Monogatari, and you watched
just JoJo.
Oh yeah,
this
JoJo.
is my first time away from JoJo. And then, by the way,
how's it feel, man?
By the way, update, guys. Since last we spoke, Steel Ball Run has been officially announced, so maybe we're gonna revisit Part 7 together. I don't fucking know actually how we're gonna do this.
We should do that when they also make an announcement for any further SAO.
Or Monogatari, because technically they already did.
Okay, fine. Yeah, Monster Off Season. Yes, there is that too.
There is that too.
We can just do like a fucking redux of the old Gotta Watch Them All.
I mean, I think that's a great idea.
Because I only watched one episode of Monster Season.
I think I watched the whole season. Yeah, I mean, I gave it like anime of the podcast season. Yeah, it was really good. All right, I think that wraps it up. I think next Gotta Watch Them All is obvious for Will.
Second season,
and I think I am watching Dead Apple and season 3,
which means, oh man, I gotta rewatch Dead Apple because I don't remember that at all.
Is it Dead Apple?
Yeah, Dead Apple.
Dead Apple in season 3. Yeah. So so basically, it would be is Dead Apple like season 2.5 basically?
It's like an OVA. It's like an in-between story,
but it's a movie.
OVA movie. I don't know if it was like a feature film. If he
Like, how long is it? Do you know?
An hour and I don't remember. It was an hour and 30 minutes.
Okay. So it's like half a cur, essentially.
No, it's more
Because like 20 minutes.
more like 3-4 episodes if you include the credits and all that.
Okay, yeah, sure. So
If you remove all that, then yeah, it's like just under half a cur.
should I also watch Juan then?
No, you do not need to watch Juan. It's chibi Bungo Stray Dogs.
Okay.
I don't think it's not. Man, it's like the high school version of Attack on Titan.
Oh.
It's like that.
Or like what's it? Palabius, like the Overlord one?
Oh yeah. You don't need to watch those.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well then, anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No. Take care of yourselves. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to us, talk shit about Bungo Stray Dogs and a certain scientific railgun. We'll talk more shit in the next Gotta Watch Them All.
All right. See you guys.